Imagine you're sitting in a hotel breakfast room in London.
Okay.
You're just having your coffee, watching the morning rush, and you happen to catch the eye of a 12-year-old girl walking by. She's got this classic, British pudding bowl haircut.
Right. Very specific visual.
Yeah, exactly. So you smile, you offer a polite good morning, and ask that standard, totally filler question we all ask, how are you today?
The one you never actually expect a real answer to.
Exactly. But instead of the usual mumble or a polite, I'm fine, she stops. She draws herself up, tilts her chin, gets this massive sparkle in her eye, and says, perfect.
Oh, wow.
And she delivers it like it is the absolute most obvious, indisputable fact in the universe.
Which completely disrupts the normal social script. I mean, nobody does that.
Right. And later on, when she's leaving, you call out, have a perfect day, and she just fires back over her shoulder, I will.
Notice the phrasing there, though. She isn't hoping for a perfect day.
Yeah, she's not waiting to see what happens.
Exactly. She isn't waiting to see how the day unfolds before rendering a verdict. She has preemptively decided the day is perfect. She is operating in just a completely different framework than most of us.
And that interaction, that radical shift from passively hoping things go well to actively constructing a reality where things are already perfect, is the entire foundation of what we are doing today.
It really is.
Welcome to this deep dive, by the way.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to explore how we can shift our own reality. We want to figure out how to move away from the exhausting everyday friction of just trying to survive and step into this vast space of pure possibility.
And to guide us on this, we are pulling from a really fascinating set of sources, primarily centering around the book The Art of Possibility.
Which is such a unique book because of who wrote it, right?
Oh, absolutely. It comes from this highly unusual partnership. You have Benjamin Zander, who is the longtime conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and Rosamund Stone Zander, a family therapist and landscape painter.
It's a brilliant pairing. You've got this exuberant conductor who operates on a massive, highly scrutinized public stage, paired with a therapist whose entire focus is the quiet, intimate architecture of people's internal narratives.
Yeah, the public and the profoundly private coming together.
But to reach this universe of possibility they talk about, we have to confront a pretty harsh truth first.
Which is that most of us are navigating life entirely out of our depth without even realizing it.
Yes, and Rosamund, or Roz, offers this striking metaphor for that exact feeling of sudden, absolute disorientation.
It's the whitewater rafting story, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, so she tells a story about being on a bus in Maine, heading to the Kennebec River for her very first whitewater rafting trip.
And the guide is just relentlessly drilling safety protocols into everyone.
Right. Over and over, he's telling them if you fall out of the boat, pull your feet up so they don't get caught in the rocks. Think. Toes to nose.
Toes to nose.
Then look for the boat.
It probably sounds like standard annoying safety briefing stuff when you're sitting dry on a bus.
Oh, totally. Roz is sitting there thinking he's treating them like toddlers, but then they actually hit Class 5 rapids.
The real deal.
The raft bucks, and she is violently thrown into the river, instantly swallowed by a wall of white water. In a split second, there is no up, no down, no air, no sky, just pure chaos. She loses every single point of reference.
Which is terrifying. In that state of pure sensory overload, panic usually takes over. The amygdala hijacks the brain, and, people drown because they literally cannot think.
But in that void, a predefined catchphrase cuts through the panic. Toes to nose.
Wow.
Her body automatically curls into a ball. Then the next phrase surfaces. Look for the boat. She spots the raft, reaches out, and is pulled back in.
The underlying psychological mechanism here is just crucial for us. When life throws you out of the boat, say a career collapses, a relationship ends, or you just hit a massive wall of burnout, you cannot simply think your way out of the chaos in real time.
No, your executive function is completely offline.
You are just tumbling underwater, getting battered by the rocks.
Which is why you need a mental catchphrase. You need an anchor established in advance, back when you were calm, that can act as a lifeline to pull your rational mind back online.
And our aim today in this deep dive is to provide those mental catchphrases for you.
To begin changing our possibilities, we have to start with the foundational anchor. We need to recognize that the reality we are so desperately trying to survive is, to a large extent, a story we've built ourselves.
Yeah, consider the old business parable about the two shoe factory scouts. They were sent to Africa a century ago to evaluate the market.
The classic story. The first scout takes one look around, heads to the telegraph office, and sends a message back saying, "Situation hopeless, no one wears shoes."
Right. And the second scout observes the exact same scene, absorbs the exact same physical data, and sends back glorious business opportunity. They have no shoes.
Both individuals are processing identical sensory input, yet they construct entirely contradictory realities.
And this goes way deeper than just a quaint lesson on optimism or positive thinking. This is actually a demonstration of human biology.
It really is. We tend to assume our eyes act like camera lenses, just objectively recording the world. But neuroscience paints a very different picture.
The 1953 frog's eye experiment completely shatters that camera lens assumption, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. Researchers in the 50s discovered that a frog's optical system doesn't transmit some high-definition image of the swamp to its brain.
It's not streaming 4K video.
No, not at all. The frog's eye is essentially a biological bouncer. It actively blocks almost all visual data, only letting through 4 specific patterns.
Just 4.
Just 4. Sharp lines of contrast, sudden changes in light, outlines of things moving, and the curves of small, dark objects.
Meaning, a frog is literally blind to a beautiful sunset. It cannot see a stationary rock, or even another frog if it's sitting perfectly still.
It only perceives what it needs to eat, like a small, dark, moving bug, or what might eat it, like the sudden shadow of a predator.
It edits out like 99% of the universe.
Because processing all that data would waste precious energy and slow down its reaction time. The frog's brain receives a highly redacted report and uses it to simulate a working environment.
And human beings operate on the same exact principle, just with a more sophisticated algorithm.
Exactly. Our primary biological directive is survival. Our nervous system constantly filters reality, prioritizing threats, distinguishing allies from enemies, mapping resources.
We don't see reality, we see a highly compressed simulation optimized for keeping us alive. We're basically walking around wearing a biological VR headset.
That's a great way to put it.
But, okay, I have to push back a little on how far this goes. A biological filter doesn't negate the existence of physical objects, right?
What do you mean?
Like, a brick is still a brick, whether I'm paying attention to it or not. If someone takes a photograph of a brick, we all agree it's a photo of a brick. Objective reality still anchors us, surely.
Well, it anchors us physically, yes. But our comprehension of that physical anchor is entirely learned. It's invented.
Okay, give me an example.
Right. Let's look at the concept of a photograph, like you mentioned. When anthropologists first presented two-dimensional photographs to the Mian people of Ethiopia in the 20th century, the tribespeople couldn't read them.
They couldn't identify the images on the paper.
They didn't even perceive them as images. They sniffed the paper, they crumpled it up to listen to the sound, they tore off corners to taste it.
Oh, wow, so they interacted with it purely as a strange physical object.
Exactly. They couldn't see a person in the photo because the cognitive software required to translate 2D shading into a 3D human face just hadn't been installed by their culture.
That is wild. We only see photographs because we were explicitly trained to invent that meaning.
Yeah. There is a fantastic anecdote about Pablo Picasso that captures this perfectly. A man on a train was criticizing Picasso, complaining that modern artists don't paint things the way they really are.
I love this story. The man pulls out a snapshot from his wallet, points to it, and says, "Here, this is my wife. This is how she really looks."
And Picasso studies the photo for a moment, looks back at the man, and says, "Isn't she rather small and flat?"
It's so good. The man is completely ignoring the physical reality of the object, which is just a tiny piece of glossy paper, and he is literally hallucinating his wife.
And Picasso is playfully refusing to participate in that hallucination. Our brains are relentless narrative engines, you know. We require coherence so we connect random dots into a cohesive story.
This is so vividly demonstrated in split-brain patients, isn't it? The individuals who have had their corpus callosum severed.
Right, which cuts off communication between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Researchers can silently prompt the right hemisphere to perform an action, like getting up to close a door.
And the patient complies. They get up and close it.
But if you ask the patient why they close the door, the left hemisphere, which houses the language center and has no idea about the secret prompt, it doesn't just admit ignorance.
It instantly fabricates a reason. The patient will say, "Oh, I felt a draft." And they truly believe their own lie, because the brain just cannot tolerate a narrative void.
It weaves a story to make the world make sense, and it hides the seams so well we don't even realize we're wearing a garment of our own making.
Which brings us to our first lifeline, our first mental catchphrase for when we fall out of the boat. It is simply, it's all invented.
It's all invented.
But how do we practically apply that when we feel stuck?
Consider the famous 9-dot puzzle. You have 9 dots arranged in a 3x3 grid. The challenge is to connect all 9 dots using only 4 straight continuous lines without ever lifting your pen.
Anyone who has tried this without knowing the trick knows it's absolutely infuriating.
Yeah.
You trace the perimeter, you zigzag through the middle, but there is always one rogue dot left unconnected.
The puzzle feels mathematically impossible.
It really does.
But the impossibility is actually a symptom of your brain's automatic filtering. When you look at those dots, your visual cortex immediately classifies them as a square.
Right.
You unconsciously impose a boundary. You assume a rule that does not actually exist in the instructions. You tell yourself the lines cannot extend past the imaginary perimeter of that square.
The box keeping you trapped isn't on the paper at all. It's entirely in your head.
Exactly. The only way to solve it is to draw your lines well outside the cluster of dots into the blank, undefined white space of the paper.
But you cannot utilize that white space until you realize the box was a fabrication.
So for everyone listening, the practical application here is a specific question. When you hit a wall at work or find yourself trapped in a recurring argument with a partner, you need to stop and ask yourself, what assumption am I making that I'm not aware I'm making that gives me what I see?
That is a phenomenal question. What assumption am I making that I'm not aware I'm making that gives me what I see? It forces you to examine the structural integrity of your frustration.
You aren't just misinterpreting a piece of the puzzle. You have likely invented the entire framework of the problem.
And once you identify the invisible box, you follow up with a second question. What might I now invent that I haven't yet invented that would give me other choices?
That reframing is so powerful.
It is, but it opens up a much larger issue for me. If our reality is just an invented box, what is the default box most of society is currently living inside?
Well, the Xanders refer to our standard operating system as the world of measurement.
Connecting this back to our biology, if our brains are designed to keep us alive in a hostile environment, the default reality we construct must be one of perpetual scarcity, right?
That's it exactly. The world of measurement is an intricate architecture of hierarchies, assessments, scales, and constant comparisons.
It is the relentless tallying of how do I stack up against everyone else.
In this framework, we perceive the world as a zero-sum game with fiercely limited resources. We believe there is only a finite amount of money, success, status, or even love to go around.
And to survive, you must compete.
You must constantly evaluate who is a threat, guard your territory, and secure your share before someone else takes it. We've internalized this so deeply that our language reflects it without us even noticing.
Yeah, we casually describe a tense board meeting as a minefield.
We use the vocabulary of literal warfare to describe a Tuesday afternoon at the office.
But let's pause and look at the friction here again. Scarcity isn't just a biological illusion or a bad attitude. I mean, rent is due on the first of the month.
True.
Bank accounts hit zero. The economy goes into recession. People lose their jobs. We aren't hallucinating the concept of an empty fridge.
And that distinction is vital. There is a vast difference between true physical scarcity, the actual lack of calories, shelter, or medicine, and scarcity thinking.
Scarcity thinking.
Yes, scarcity thinking is a psychological pathology. It is the chronic, pervasive dread that there will never be enough, regardless of actual material wealth.
Oh, I see.
This pathology is just as common among billionaires hoarding assets as it is among individuals struggling paycheck to paycheck.
It's a lens through which you view the world, not the actual state of your ledger.
Exactly. And our modern societal structures are heavily reliant on this lens. Look at the economist Thomas Malthus. He published a wildly influential essay in 1798 arguing that human population growth would inevitably outpace agricultural production.
Leading to catastrophic famine.
Right. And Malthusian economics became the bedrock of the Industrial Revolution and modern corporate structures. It instilled a fundamental panic into society. Supplies are fixed, growth is a threat, and we are perpetually on the brink of running out.
That mindset breeds a massive culture of hoarding. And the cruel irony is that when an entire society acts out of scarcity thinking, hoarding wealth, gatekeeping opportunities, they actually manufacture real physical scarcity for the people at the bottom.
The world of measurement makes the pessimistic simulation a reality. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So what is the alternative? The authors propose stepping into what they call the universe of possibility.
Which is the blank white space outside the 9 dots.
How does it actually function, though?
In the universe of possibility, resources are not finite pies that we must fight over. Instead of viewing resources as things you extract, you view them as things you generate.
You generate them through collaborative invention.
Yes.
Okay, I need a concrete example of this. You can't just manifest resources out of thin air by thinking positively.
It's not magic, I promise. It's about changing the behavioral incentives of your environment. Suppose you are managing a struggling, cynical team at a company.
Okay.
The world of measurement dictates you motivate them through fear. Stack ranking, performance threats, bonus cuts. You fight over the limited resource of morale.
Sounds like a terrible place to work.
But in the universe of possibility, you might rename your division the Can-Do Company. You redefine the very purpose of the team.
Just by naming it, you create a new set of rules.
You construct an entirely new psychological container. When you treat people as if they are part of a can-do culture, their defensive shields drop. The amygdala calms down.
They stop spending 80% of their energy guarding their territory from coworkers.
And they start spending that energy on innovation. You haven't extracted morale. You have generated an entirely new resource collaboration that simply didn't exist in the zero-sum model.
The catchphrase for making this shift is a diagnostic question. How are my thoughts and actions in this moment reflections of the measurement world?
And the operative word there is how. You do not ask if you are in the measurement world.
Because the biological default means you almost certainly are.
Exactly. The moment you catch yourself thinking, oh, I'm doing great, I'm completely free of the measurement world, you just have to laugh at yourself.
Because assessing your own level of enlightenment is just the world of measurement sneaking back in through a side window. You're trying to win a gold medal in non-competitiveness.
The goal isn't immediate perfection, it's consistent awareness. It's catching the survival framework in action and intentionally softening your posture.
Which brings us to the most difficult part of this deep dive. Changing our own internal framing is one thing, but we live in a society with other people.
Very true.
We have bosses, partners, children, and strangers who are all operating in the world of measurement. How do we apply the universe of possibility to them?
We utilize a practice the Xanders call giving an A, but to really grasp why this is so transformative, we first have to examine the damage caused by how we traditionally evaluate people.
Because the pinnacle of the measurement world is the grading system.
It is. The book details a specific leadership course at the University of Southern California. Every year, 50 students are hand-selected from a student body of 27,000 to take this prestigious class.
So they are objectively the highest performers on campus.
Yet, at the end of the semester, university policy dictates the class must be graded on a strict mathematical curve.
Ugh, the curve.
1/3 will receive A's, 1/3 B's, and the final third are forced to receive C's.
That is just psychological sabotage. You take brilliant people, put them in a room, and intentionally penalize a third of them just to satisfy a bell curve.
A C in that context doesn't indicate a lack of mastery. It merely indicates you were fractionally less flawless than the person to your left.
It weaponizes their peers against them.
It isolates them in a state of chronic anxiety. Now, the antidote to this is found in Michelangelo's philosophy of sculpting.
Michelangelo asserted that the perfect, magnificent statue already exists in perfect form inside the block of marble, right?
Yes, the artist isn't creating the figure from scratch. The artist's only task is to carefully chip away the excess stone to liberate the masterpiece within.
Translating that to human beings. Instead of measuring a person against an external standard and grading their deficits, you assume their potential is already fully formed inside them.
Your job is just to help remove the obstacles blocking it. That is the core mechanism of giving an A. It is not a measurement of past performance.
It is a paradigm of possibility that you invite someone to step into.
Beautifully said.
But this is where the friction gets really intense for me. If we walk around handing out A's to everybody, regardless of their effort or skill, doesn't the entire system collapse?
It sounds counterintuitive, I know.
It sounds suspiciously like the whole participation trophy culture that people argue destroys ambition.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's no standard to meet, what prevents total complacency?
That objection is the ultimate defense mechanism of the measurement world. We are terrified that without the threat of punishment, people will just do nothing.
Exactly.
But Ben Zander tested this exact fear in his masterclass. He teaches highly gifted, deeply anxious graduate music students at the New England Conservatory.
Right.
And he observed that year after year, these musicians were so paralyzed by the fear of missing a note and receiving a bad grade that they refused to take the emotional and artistic risks necessary to play with true passion.
The threat of the bad grade forced them to play it safe. Survival mode overrides creative mode.
Ben devised a radical intervention. On the first day of class, he looks at these 30 terrified students and announces, "Every single one of you is getting an A for this course."
Guaranteed on day one.
Guaranteed. But
Yeah.
the A is conditional.
Ah, there's the catch.
To secure it, they must write him a letter within the first 2 weeks of class. The catch is, the letter must be dated for the following May, the end of the academic year.
So they have to write a letter from the future, looking back.
Yes, and the letter must begin with the phrase, "Dear Mr. Xander, I got my A because,"
Right.
written entirely in the past tense, they must meticulously detail the extraordinary human being they have become over the last 9 months.
He doesn't want a list of competitions won, does he?
No, he wants them to describe their new attitudes, their emotional breakthroughs, the artistic risks they finally took. He instructs them to fall passionately in love with the person they are inventing on that page.
Because by writing that letter, they are constructing the cognitive software for a new reality.
And the letters included in the source material are profound. They aren't writing about being lazy and skating by. They are writing about profound vulnerability.
The psychological shift is stunning. There was a trombonist named Tucker Doolan who wrote about finally dismantling the arrogant mask he had worn just to protect himself from criticism.
Yeah, he described a moment in his imagined future where he played an unaccompanied encore, stripped of all pretension, completely forgetting the audience was even there.
He wrote, "What came from my trombone, I wholly believe, was my own voice."
He chipped away his own marble.
He really did. And Esther Lee, a flutist, she wrote about shedding her crushing perfectionism. She had spent her life weaponizing every single mistake against herself.
In her letter, she stated, "Now I enjoy making mistakes, and I really learn from these mistakes. I found out that if I believe in myself, I can do everything."
That letter exposes the true genius of the exercise. When you remove the existential threat of a failing grade, you fundamentally alter the definition of a mistake.
A missed note is no longer a crisis that triggers the amygdala.
It's just a data point. It is just the chisel slipping slightly on the marble.
Ben even enforces this with a physical practice, which I love. When his students make a mistake, they are forbidden from wincing or sighing.
What do they have to do?
They must throw their arms in the air, smile, and declare, "How fascinating."
How fascinating. That forcefully intercepts the shame spiral.
It does. A student named Giselle Hillier wrote that through this process, she completely lost her fear of being noticed. She realized she had lived her entire life believing she only existed as a reflection of other people's evaluations.
When you dismantle the measurement system, you don't breed laziness. You breed profound courage. People become willing to let the music break their hearts.
It calls to mind the advice from Ben's former cello teacher, Gaspar Casado. He used to look at his technically perfect students and say, "I'm so sorry for you. Your lives have been so easy. You can't play great music unless your heart's been broken."
When you stop clinging to the safety of a guaranteed outcome, you allow yourself to access the real depths of human experience required for great art.
You shift from trying to survive the class to trying to contribute to the world. When Ben asked his students how it felt to be granted an A on day one, a Taiwanese student spoke up.
And this was a massive cultural leap for him, right? Because his background heavily emphasized the teacher's absolute authority and the danger of speaking out of turn.
Exactly. But the paradigm shift had struck him so deeply.
He called it the secret of life.
He had deduced that a score of 68 on an exam is just an invention. A letter grade of A is an invention.
The entire architecture of success and failure is a game human beings constructed.
And if the rules are completely made up, we have the authority to invent a new game. One that actively generates joy, connection, and possibility for ourselves and everyone around us.
We have covered immense ground today. We started by acknowledging the biological reality that our brains actively filter the world just to ensure our survival.
Which logically results in a default society built on the world of measurement, a stressful, zero-sum game of scarcity, hoarding, and constant comparison.
But by utilizing the anchor phrase, "It's all invented," we can recognize the artificial boundaries trapping us, draw our lines outside the 9 dots, and enter the universe of possibility.
And we do this practically by giving an A.
We choose to look at our colleagues, our families, and even perfect strangers, and assume the masterpiece is already inside them, rather than grading their rough edges.
You provide them with a compelling possibility to live into, rather than a demanding expectation they must survive.
As we wrap up this deep dive, there is one final implication I want to leave you with. Our sources today are heavily focused on the present and the future, right? Writing a letter dated for next May, constructing a new reality moving forward.
Right.
But if our entire experience of reality is just a narrative we are constantly editing, what happens if we apply these tools to our past?
Oh, wow. That is a profound inversion of the concept.
Think about the heaviest regret you carry, the biggest failure. That moment you were violently thrown out of the boat and you panicked. What would happen if you went back into your own history and retroactively gave an A to that younger version of yourself?
That's a beautiful thought.
If you stopped grading your past mistakes with a red pen and instead chipped away the stone to see the scared, overwhelmed person who was just trying to survive. If it is truly all invented, then rewriting the meaning of your past is just as possible as writing your future.
That is a transformative question to carry with you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, remember to look for the boat.